to dismiss his case based on President Trump's broad pardoning of January 6 rioters. Attorneys for Brian Cole Jr. filing a motion to dismiss, saying this is exactly the kind of case the president's pardon would cover. Cole is accused of planting the pipe bombs the night before the Capitol riots. Those devices were found January 6th. He was arrested in December. Let's check in with criminal defense attorney Joseph Tully to break this all down. Is there an actual legal case here to ask to dismiss based on those pardons, Joseph?
There actually is. When I first got this topic, I was fairly skeptical. And in general, judges are very loath to grant defense motions, especially ones that result in a dismissal or the person charged getting off. So there really is. So the presidential power of pardon is very absolute, and it applies. And then we have Ex Parte Garland, which is a case from 1867, and that extends the presidential pardon to acts that occur after conduct. So here we have people who were pardoned for bringing guns into Washington, D.C. that had, weeks or days of pre-planning for activity that occurred prior to January 6th. And the pardon applied to them.
So when you break it down like that, would his name need to be tied to the pardon, or would it just be circumstantial given the previous pardons?
It can be just circumstantial. So again, this applies to anybody who had conduct related to January 6th. So the government will have their best argument isn't that that he planted the bombs allegedly on January 5th and the pardon applies to January 6th, because again, pardons have already been given for conduct that happened prior to January 6th. The government will have to argue, they will have to make a very strong showing that that the activity at the RNC and DNC was separate from a protest or rioting at the Capitol. And I think that will be their best argument, that, planting bombs at a DNC was different than protesting or rioting on January 6th.
So the government gets a crack at this motion as well.
Correct. So the motion's been filed, but no date has been set for a hearing yet, and we haven't seen what the government will respond. However, I'm giving what I think will be their best arguments. The date won't be a good argument, but that it was a separate activity, bombing or an attempted bombing of Democratic and Republican headquarters versus events at the Capitol. But the language of the pardon is at or near the Capitol, and the DNC and the RNC centers are very close to the Capitol. So there's going to be a good argument that it was near the Capitol.
And right on the eve of. So, we'll see what happens there as it was filed, but we're waiting to hear more from the judge and the government. Joseph, we appreciate the explainer there.
Thank you. Take care. Happy.
All right, let's move on, because delays and long lines continue at airports across the country amid the